For no apparent reason, under the unceasing watch of plainclothes police officers, the money in the box turned into a pile of waste pulp. Had it not been for the police officers supporting her, Lily Wong would have already fainted. At this moment, the kidnapper called from another unknown number. Trembling, Lily Wong answered. The kidnapper asked, "You've retrieved the box, haven't you? The money. How could this happen? Wah." Unable to bear it any longer, Lily Wong burst into tears. The kidnapper laughed easily. "Judging by your voice, it seems you used real money, which puts me at ease. I told you earlier, I can immediately tell if the money is real or fake. But you can't blame me for this. It was you who decided to involve the police, despite my many warnings. Let's continue the transaction at the same time tomorrow. Of course, you can choose not to, but I'll keep waiting for you. Just don't bring any cousins this time," he said before hanging up. Everyone was left speechless. Greg Wong didn't know how to start, fearing that Lily Wong would demand compensation from the county bureau for the mess. The money was ruined by the criminal, not the police, so compensation was out of the question. But if she made a fuss, it would be a headache. Lily Wong was also filled with fear, contradiction, and hatred. She worried about her son's safety, blamed the police for their incompetence, and thought about how nearly half of her family's assets were gone. They would have to sell some of their properties to pay off debts. However, being River's wife for so many years, she understood the bigger picture. She knew that after such an incident, the police couldn't possibly compensate her family. Making a fuss now, especially when the police were involved in the investigation, would only make tomorrow's ransom handover more uncertain and her son's life even less secure. Even if she managed to gather another $3 million, it would be futile. If she had never reported the kidnapping, perhaps things might have turned out better, and her son might have been released. But now, stuck in this awkward situation, what could she do? After a long silence, it was Lily Wong who calmed down first, pleading, "Director Wong, what should we do tomorrow? Can my son come back alive? I can't come up with another $3 million so soon." Greg Wong had no idea. In previous kidnapping cases, they usually knew where the kidnappers were, and the kidnappers would tell them where to make the exchange. Knowing the kidnappers' location, they would surround them, deploying snipers and negotiators to apply pressure. Rarely did kidnappers not surrender. But in this kidnapping case, from start to finish, they only knew that the victim was in the kidnappers' hands, with no clue about their location. The kidnappers seemed unafraid of them, rendering their usual tactics useless, forcing them to resort to paying the ransom. Yet, during the ransom payment, the kidnapper didn't show up and somehow managed to turn the money into a sticky mess right under the police's watch. This was completely unexpected. Such a kidnapping case was unheard of, not only for Greg Wong but also in the province's history of kidnappings over the past few decades. It was exceptionally troublesome and headache-inducing for the police. After much thought, Greg Wong could only say, "Let's regroup back at the station and analyze how to respond." Back at the county bureau, Greg Wong first arranged for female colleagues to comfort Lily Wong, then immediately called a special meeting with the criminal investigation team. Greg Wong said grimly, "Everyone saw what happened today. The kidnapper is too cunning. He knew from the start that Lily Wong's cousin was our undercover officer, Lee, but let us continue with the act until the very end when he destroyed the $3 million. I bear some responsibility for this. I only thought about how the kidnapper would take the money under the watch of our armed undercover officers, not expecting him to not show up and instead destroy the money. This is his way of demonstrating power, seeking revenge, and warning us about the consequences of involving the police." Everyone was filled with righteous indignation, unable to anticipate such an outcome. The money was tightly wrapped in foil, folded and pressed at all corners to prevent water from entering, following the kidnapper's demand to throw the money box into the lake. Moreover, with the money box under the watch of armed undercover officers, it was nearly impossible for anyone to take it and escape unscathed. Even if the kidnapper managed to do so, with a GPS tracking device stuffed inside the money box, taking the money would be like walking into a trap. When Greg Wong devised this plan, he had multiple safeguards in place. Yet, the unexpected still happened. The foil mysteriously disappeared, and the money was ruined. According to Lee and Lily Wong, they had specifically checked the foil, confirming it was the kind used for barbecuing, leaving no room for the kidnapper to tamper with it. The question remained, how did the kidnapper accomplish this? It was like a magic trick. The kidnapper fooled them all, right under their noses, and they still couldn't figure out how. Greg Wong continued, "The kidnapper mentioned on the phone about continuing the ransom exchange at the same time and place tomorrow. Any thoughts?" Lee blurted out, Boss, this must be another trap. This was obvious. Everyone thought it was a trap. Which kidnapper would inform the victim's family and a bunch of police officers in advance about the time and place for the ransom exchange? Moreover, choosing the South Lake Reservoir's rocky beach again, surrounded by mountains, made it easy for the kidnapper to hide, but also for the police. Continuing the exchange at this location, the police could simply set up snipers in the surrounding mountains beforehand. Would the kidnapper dare to take the ransom under such circumstances? Jacqueline said, "Boss, I find today's entire event very suspicious. The kidnapper clearly knew Lily Wong's cousin was Lee, our undercover officer, yet allowed us to continue the act until the very end when he destroyed 3 million. Even after destroying such a huge amount, the kidnapper seemed not to care at all, which is abnormal. Indeed, the kidnapper seemed not to care about the 3 million, raising suspicions. Of course, it wasn't his money, but it was the ransom he had meticulously planned to demand. To destroy such a large sum without blinking an eye, on what basis did the kidnapper believe Lily Wong would gather another 3 million for him? Typically, kidnappers, seeing 3 million delivered to them, would abandon their original plans, even knowing police were present, and take the risk to seize the money. But this group of kidnappers exchanged 3 million for a mere just about knowing the money's authenticity. Greg Wong buried his head in his hands, silently pondering, unable to find a way out of the current predicament. Despite racking his brain, he couldn't fathom the kidnapper's motive. Without knowing the kidnapper and hostage's location, there was no way to threaten or strike at them. Unless the kidnapper called again, their phone was unreachable at other times, rendering the negotiator useless. Although this kidnapping case was full of doubts, the only option they had was to continue negotiating with the kidnapper. This was the only way to make the kidnapper show up. Once he did, everything would be manageable. Realizing there was only one path forward, Greg Wong no longer hesitated, immediately saying, "Regardless of whether the kidnapper changes the exchange location tomorrow, we still need to prepare the ambush at South Lake Reservoir in advance. Zhang, get the most detailed map of the South Lake Reservoir area from the relevant departments immediately." Half an hour later, the team obtained a detailed map from the Water Conservancy Bureau, including contour lines of the surrounding mountains and other data. After projecting the map on the wall, Greg Wong studied it for a long time, then stood up and explained with an antenna rod. "We can't be sure if the kidnapper will change the ransom exchange time and location tomorrow, but we must prepare for the South Lake Reservoir area in advance. Look here, the rocky beach is an open area with a clear view. We can't determine if the kidnapper is monitoring the South Lake Reservoir from the surrounding mountains, but we must prepare for the worst. Assuming the kidnapper is watching from afar with binoculars, we can't catch them in a short time. Our police arrangements can't be directly visible on the rocky beach. Captain Lin, look closely. These points on the mountains can encircle the rocky beach area. Our officers can hide there and rush down to support within 3 to 5 minutes if something happens. Also, prepare snipers and follow commands for specific actions. As long as we set up these ambush points in advance, the kidnapper won't be able to escape once he appears." Captain Lin replied, "Okay." Greg Wong continued, "Additionally, we need to station people at these distant points to prevent the kidnapper from demanding the box be thrown into the water again, taking the money from underwater. As long as these points are secured, we can encircle the entire lake area of South Lake Reservoir. Even if the kidnapper uses diving to take the ransom, he won't escape our surveillance. Also, let Lily Wong carry a GPS tracking device tomorrow. Even if the kidnapper changes the location at the last minute, we can respond calmly. Captain Lin, arrange for people and request sniper support immediately. Take advantage of the night to move up the mountains around the reservoir without using the roads, and observe for any people along the way. If someone is spotted on the mountain at night, capture them first." "Okay, I'll arrange it right away." "But boss, we haven't prepared the money for tomorrow's exchange." Greg Wong snorted, "Use fake money. What if the kidnapper sees the fake money and decides to kill the hostage? We don't know the kidnapper's location, and we've been worried about the victim being killed, falling into their trap and remaining passive. Remember, the most important thing tomorrow is to capture the kidnapper." With these words, everyone understood Greg Wong's intentions. Clearly, the kidnapper had completely infuriated him. Tomorrow's operation would no longer prioritize the victim's safety but focus on capturing the kidnapper. Even if the victim was killed, with today's events as a backdrop, the higher-ups wouldn't blame them for failing to rescue the hostage. Capturing the kidnapper would be the primary achievement. Greg Wong, like a military commander, finished his briefing with the map. He firmly believed that if the kidnappers were still trading at the South Lake Reservoir, they could definitely be controlled. Even if the kidnappers changed the trading time and place at the last minute, it would only mean that tonight's arrangements were in vain. Other forces could be quickly mobilized, and with the assistance of GPS, there was no chance for the kidnappers to escape. After the meeting, he went to the forensic lab and found Dr. Chen. "Old Chen, how's the investigation of the box going?" Dr. Chen shook his head in frustration. "How could the tinfoil disappear? We still haven't come to a conclusion on that. What about the rest? We've only found out that the money was corroded by an alkaline solution, and it was a strong alkaline solution." He explained further for Greg Wong, like soap water, which is an alkaline solution. "We found the pH value to be very high, and this is after being diluted by being soaked in the lake water for a long time. The alkalinity must have been even stronger initially, which is why all the money was destroyed." "Is the corrosive nature of this strong alkaline solution very strong?" "Of course. You see, the money has turned into pulp. But where did this solution come from? If there were strong alkaline substances in the box, Lily Wong and Lee should have noticed something when they put the money in." Old Chen expressed his helplessness. "The box can't hold liquid, and tin doesn't react with alkaline solutions. I can't figure out why the tin foil protecting the money also disappeared." Greg Wong sighed deeply. "How long will it take for you to figure everything out?" Old Chen replied, "Probably a day or two." Greg Wong could only say, "All right, then hurry up." He had a certain understanding of the forensic identification process. Forensic work wasn't as magical or high-end as ordinary people imagined. Many people think that identifying substances is very simple. Just put it under an ultra-high magnification electron microscope, and directly observing the molecular structure of the material would reveal everything. That's impossible. There's no such instrument in the world. The forensic identification process starts with measuring the pH value of the substance, then based on the results, inferring which ions are contained in the substance. Then, a small sample is prepared for a color reaction to confirm whether the guessed ions exist. Only after confirming all the ionic components in it can a conclusion be reached about what the substance is. This requires continuous guessing and experimental confirmation. It's not possible to give Greg Wong an accurate conclusion within a few hours. Although Dr. Chen has over 20 years of forensic experience, he has never encountered such a case before, and his chemical knowledge is far less profound than that of Chase Chen, a chemical engineering PhD. That's why he couldn't figure out how the tin foil disappeared like magic, and a box full of strong alkaline solution corroded all the money. If Chase Chen knew they still couldn't figure out how he did it, he would probably laugh and say, "Young people, you are still too naive." With his rich chemical knowledge and professional sensitivity, he had long understood that this was just the result of a few simple chemical reactions. The next morning, at the same time, the kidnapper called Lily Wong again, instructing her to bring the money alone without the police following, and the location was still at the South Lake Reservoir, then hung up. Greg Wong had already detailed to her what to do, and everything proceeded according to plan. She took a taxi arranged by the police station and drove to the South Lake Reservoir. After getting off the car alone, she took out the box filled with fake money, touched the GPS locator in her pocket, and looked around at the mountains. Although she couldn't see anyone, she knew that at least a dozen pairs of eyes were closely watching and protecting her. Perhaps, in addition to those dozen pairs of eyes, there were also the kidnapper's watchers. But now, there was no other choice. The only way to save her son was to continue the transaction. After the taxi left, she stood on the stone beach of the reservoir, forcing herself to appear calm, waiting for further instructions from the kidnappers. Half an hour later, the kidnapper's call finally came. "You've arrived, right?" "Yes. What do you want to do next?" The kidnapper laughed. "Why so serious and tense? Relax. Be happy. You'll meet your son soon." Hearing this, Lily Wong didn't feel anything, but Greg Wong suddenly had a bad feeling. He lowered his voice and instructed the personnel at various points. "All personnel, pay close attention to the scene and ensure safety." At the same time, he said through the small earpiece in Lily Wong's ear, "Lily Wong, be careful. Don't act rashly if anything happens." Lily Wong took a deep breath. She, a woman, had never been as strong as she was today. Whether evil or good, the love for her child was real. She calmly said on the phone, "I brought the money, it's real money, and there are no police around me. Tell me, how will we proceed with the transaction?" "Just because there are no police around you doesn't mean the police aren't watching you from afar," the kidnapper said with a laugh. Everyone was surprised by his casual laughter. The rookie police officers were all using their imagination, wondering how this guy guessed again. Could there be a mole? Greg Wong whispered, "Tell him there are no police around." Lily Wong said, "There are no police around me. Don't worry." The kidnapper laughed. "Actually, it doesn't matter. We're not worried about the police. The transaction will still go smoothly today." Greg Wong was startled. The kidnapper had accurately predicted they had people nearby and was still so confident. "Why?" The kidnapper continued. "Time's up. I'll call you from another number." A few minutes later, another unfamiliar number called. "To speed up today's transaction, I won't waste words. Do you see a small mulberry tree on the southern outskirts of the stone beach? It's the only mulberry tree around, so I believe you won't mistake it." Lily Wong was standing on the south side at the moment, and after searching, she found the mulberry tree. "I see it. Behind the mulberry tree is a small pile of stones, and a box is buried underneath. Go dig it out, and we'll talk again in 3 minutes." Then he hung up. Just as Lily Wong was about to run over, Greg Wong said, "Be careful. You're alone now. Don't fall into their trap. When you go there, no matter what you see, keep in touch immediately." "Okay." Lily Wong ran to the back of the mulberry tree and indeed found a small pile of stones. After searching, she saw the back of a black box. "Director Wong, I see the box. It's buried under the stones. Don't move it yet. Listen carefully. Is there any sound from the box?" Greg Wong, having dealt with Jasmine Gone, a bomb expert, less than 2 months ago, instinctively thought the box might contain a bomb. But there were no kidnappers in sight nearby, and the distance was definitely beyond that of a remote-controlled bomb, so he was worried about a vibration bomb or a timed bomb. Of course, there weren't many people in the country with such technology, but he was just being cautious. Lily Wong listened carefully and reported, "No sound." "Okay, then don't directly pick up the box. First, clear the small stones on top." Lily Wong did as instructed. "Done. The box doesn't seem strange." "Okay, be careful. Lift the box out flat. Don't shake it." "Director Wong, it seems to be an empty box." "Oh, is there no weight inside at all?" Lily Wong, not understanding his concern about a bomb, shook it and said, "I shook it. It's empty." Greg Wong cursed inwardly at her recklessness. If she had been blown up, he, the chief commander, would have to take the blame. Fortunately, nothing happened, so he said, "Then open the box." "Okay, opened it. It's empty inside." "Is there no tin foil inside?" "Nothing at all." Greg Wong was puzzled. If the kidnapper had prepared another empty box, it should have been the same trick as yesterday, intending to take the money box away through the waterway. But why was there no tin foil? How would the kidnapper take the money box away later? While he was still puzzled, the kidnapper's call came. "Hey, have you opened the box?" "Opened it. There's nothing inside." The kidnapper laughed. "Yes, of course, there's nothing. Do you think I'm so stupid to use yesterday's trick again and let the police catch me? Do you all think I'm very stupid, huh?" Lily Wong reluctantly replied, "What do you want? How do I give you the money? And when will you release the person?" "Don't rush. There's a small bag attached to the bottom of the box. Do you see it?" Lily Wong looked down, and there was indeed a small bag attached to the bottom of the box, a feature most boxes have. "I see it. There's a letter in the bag. Open it, and it will give you the next instruction. Talk to you later." The call ended. Lily Wong hesitated for a moment, then said to the intercom, "Director Wong, does he not plan to continue the transaction here?" Not trading at the South Lake Reservoir wasn't beyond Greg Wong's expectations. Only a foolish kidnapper would announce today's trading location the day before. He had already anticipated that the kidnapper would definitely change the trading location at the last minute. But several questions popped into his mind. If they weren't trading here, what was the purpose of leaving this box? If it was just to leave a letter, why bother using a big box? The letter contained the next hint, but couldn't the hint just be said over the phone instead of being written in a letter?